So the latest edition of Empire magazine has a few comments by various creatives at Lucasfilm for the upcoming shows, and one comment made by Dave Filoni is sparking some controversy, specifically regarding Grand Admiral Thrawn, who's going to be introduced into live action. Now, ever since The Mandalorian Season 2 Chapter 13 The Jedi, when Grand Admiral Thrawn was name dropped on Corvus, fans knew he was going to come into the Mandoverse, but a big question is what iteration of the character were we going to get? Was he going to be the Thrawn of Heir to the Empire, Star Wars Rebels, or some of the more recent canon books by Timothy Zahn? And the reason I say that is diehard Thrawn fans are adamant he is not a villain. Instead, he's more of an antagonist, doing what he thinks is best for his people, the Chiss Ascendency. But in the new interview, Dave Filoni says no, he is going to be the villain. Let's take a look at what he said to Empire magazine. Here's the quote. So the question was, is Grand Admiral Thrawn the big bad of the New Republic era? And he says, definitely in my eyes, when Timothy Zahn wrote Heir to the Empire, Thrawn became this very iconic villain because he was different than anything we'd seen before. He wasn't another helmet-wearing, lightsaber-wielding bad guy. There's a lot of pull to make characters that are like Darth Vader because he's so iconic, but the boldness that Zahn has to make somebody that wasn't like that, someone that didn't have those abilities but could fight in a different way. In the word Star Wars, the war is part of it. Him being a Grand Admiral, a leader, a military strategist, a Moriarty archetype, someone that will outthink you, outstrategize you, that really resonated. He's a critical player in this time period. So we're fortunate to have that character, and fortunate to have Lars Mikkelsen playing him. But Filoni says that despite Thrawn's going to be more of a villain than antagonist, he wants to respect the Legends continuity that Zahn set up. He doesn't want that material to go to waste, to be forgotten, because he knows at the end of the day, there are so many Star Wars fans where those books were their sequel trilogy long before the Disney ones. Those stories really matter to a lot of fans. He says there are a lot of factors, especially in playing with a character like Timothy Zahn's Thrawn. I want to make sure I'm honouring ideas that he had. I want to see what's in store in those books for the story, how they contribute to this show, even in small ways. He also acknowledges what a lot of Star Wars fans are very grateful for, that the Bad Batch Season 1 finale and again in Season 2 canonized Wayland and Mount Tantis, another huge part of the original Zahn trilogy. So Filoni and Favreau are drawing from these sources. It's not going to be Heir to the Empire word for word, trope for trope, but rather ideas drawn from it for the Ahsoka show, and then the Mandalorian era movie. But the lowdown, Thrawn is the villain of this show. In other Star Wars news, but also taken from the same Empire magazine issue, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy confirms a massive connection between The Last Jedi and the 2025 Star Wars film, notably that Rey is going to be building the new Jedi Order based on the sacred Jedi texts, the ones that remain after what happened on Ahch-To Island. The quote is this: "We're going very far back, we're looking at the present, and now we're moving 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. The First Order has fallen, the Jedi are in chaos. There's even a question of how many exist anymore, and Rey is building the new Jedi Order based on the text she was given and that Luke imparted on her." We see her reading it in episode 9. Now, while this is not a direct confirmation of Mark Hamill's involvement, I would be very surprised if he doesn't make a cameo as a Force ghost. I would say it's inevitable. The texts that we see mentioned in episode 8 and 9 include key teachings of the Jedi Way, including the mythic origins of the Force. After Return of the Jedi, Luke went on a mission to find ancient Jedi relics, and that's when he came across Ahch-To Island, one of the first Jedi temples. They reveal that not only do these texts contain some very important teachings for Jedi, but also Force history, sites of great power across the galaxy, hints at places where one can learn even more about the Force, and so much more. So let's wait and see what this film has in store for us. And so now, my dear friends, Mandalorian star Katee Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan Kryze, reveals why the Darksaber needed to be destroyed, as it was in Chapter 24 The Return, the Season 3 finale. In a twist of events during the climax of Season 3's ending, before the victory of our heroes and the unification of Mandalore, Bo-Katan faced off against Moff Gideon, and he destroyed the Darksaber like it was nothing. Now, I noticed that many fans were upset by this decision, but I did say in my full episode breakdown at the time, this is such a good thing for Mandalore going forward. The end of division, the end of this divisive weapon, a fresh new start, and Katee Sackhoff acknowledges this while also saying it took her time to come to terms with it, but it was necessary. This legendary weapon that started with Tar Vizsla needed to be destroyed, and here's why. In a new interview on the Steve Varley show, Katee was asked about her authentic thoughts on the destruction of this weapon. She spoke about the Darksaber, calling it a trinket, explaining how this weapon caused Bo and the other Mandalorians to lose sight of what really matters, and she's absolutely spot on. She says that erroneously this is something the Mandalorian people have been fixated on, for a lack of a better word. They lost sight of the fact that they need to be united as a people. This weapon was divisive. She goes on to say that for better or worse, the destruction of the Darksaber put things right. She then reveals that Jon Favreau had this planned right from the start, for the Darksaber to be destroyed. Right from the time we saw it in the hands of Moff Gideon, at the end of season 1, they knew they were going to destroy it eventually. But she does admit, following Star Wars Rebels, this decision caught her off guard. And we kind of got a sense of this right at the start of the 3rd season, Bo-Katan defeated on her throne. At the time Axe Woves and Cosca Reeves left her, and she was saying to Din, wave that thing around and they'll follow you. So there was always a banal and tribalistic aspect of it. Right from the start of season 3, they mocked the fact that this sword should not mean as much as it does, and it divided them in the past. But going forward with it now destroyed, that's a very good thing. But the first time she was told this was her response. She says, quote, "I'm sorry, you're doing what?" But she says, it's one of those things, I think in order for Bo-Katan and Mandos to have a clean slate and a fresh start, the right leader should be leading, no matter what they possess. And that's why I believe the story arc for Bo in season 3 was so powerful. She finishes by saying this, I think that's one of the things she learns in episode 6. She sees Jack Black's character get elected. That's an interesting concept to her. It's like, oh, I may be royal, but maybe that's something we need to do. Like, am I leading because I'm qualified and my people want me to? Or am I leading just because I think I should and it's in my lineage? And those are the questions I think that are sort of getting answered, and I do think that's a very interesting parallel to make between Jack Black's character Bombardier and how Bo-Katan in universe interprets that and sees that being a rightful leader is not about what you possess or what your bloodline is, but rather what you're bringing to your people. You should be a leader based on your passion, your attachment to your heritage, and wanting to do right by your people, in this case the Mandalorians, and that's why I think Bo is the rightful ruler without the Darksaber. So now that the Darksaber's finally gone, the Mandalorian people can finally unite for the first time in 1,000 years. There was always so much division, even in the Clone Wars, so it's fantastic to see them come together again. And as Katee says, the weapon brought more harm than it did help. And maybe in season 4, they can finally show us more of the Mythosaur. I'm starting to think Grogu is the one who's going to connect to it. He's going to be a Mandalorian who's going to be around for a very long time, maybe 900 years. I'm very curious to see where his path leads. Is he going to be the next Tarth Vizsla? Who knows? Let's wait and see. But share all of your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always.